when you are picking what exercises to include in your resistance training program from a standpoint of how much value as a hypertrophy exercise they have, there are three main components that I'm going to look at. So the first one is going to be how much absolute load can we use in the exercise to challenge the target muscle. So before we get into any of these three, we want to make sure that the muscle we are trying to grow is actually what is being worked hard. We don't want to pick exercises that might work for some people but don't work for others. For an example, if you are trying to build your chest and whenever you bench press your shoulders hurt and you don't feel your chest working, you either are not bench pressing properly, or maybe barbell bench press is just not the best exercise for you for any number of reasons. And we also want to be picking exercises that in general, just feel good and you can progress over time without them causing any chronic aches and pains. So after we get that out of the way, the three main metrics by which I like to kind of grade an exercise are how much absolute load can we put on the muscle. So using the chest as an example, a barbell bench press or a machine bench press is probably going to allow the most absolute load on the pecs relative to like a dumbbell press or a fly variation. Then the next one is going to be how much range of motion through that specific muscle action does the exercise let us load the muscle. So in this case, a barbell bench press would be the worst of a barbell bench press, dumbbell bench press, and a fly variation, because the bar is going to be running into our chest before we can take the humerus through its full horizontal abduction range of motion, which is the pec's primary muscle action. So in this case, a dumbbell or even like a specialty barbell, or like a cambered bar or a buffalo bar that lets us get a little deeper, that would actually be better than the barbell. Dumbbells are probably going to be better than that. And then finally, fly would be the ultimate full stretch through the pecs. And then the last one we're going to look at is how stable is the movement. So a machine in most cases is going to be the most stable variation for any muscle. But the problem being that with machines is that not everyone has access to good machines, and machines might feel great for one person and their limb lengths and proportions, and it might feel like absolute crap to another person. So a machine might be the most stable, but might not feel the best, whereas something like a cable fly or a dumbbell press, something like that, is going to be less stable. So throughout the course of your training, you want to be including movements we can really overload well. We can take the muscles through a full range of motion. And then we also want to be picking movements that are relatively stable. If we're constantly doing unstable training, we are probably not going to be limited mainly by hypertrophy, but we might be limited by balance or just the unstable nature of whatever the lift is, or also in some cases skill. So if you aren't very good at squatting and you just feel a little wonky on your feet, especially if you're a newbie, a leg press or hack squat is probably going to be a better option for you, because you will be less limited by the skill of the lift and more so solely limited by the output of your quads in this example. So when you're picking your exercises to put in your program, kind of make sure we're checking multiple boxes of, are we picking stuff we can really progressively overload for a long period of time that are using a lot of weight on the target muscles? Can we pick exercises that are using a good range of motion, that are taking our muscles through pretty much the whole muscle action of said muscle? And then finally, are we picking exercises that, or at least including some exercises that are very stable and we are solely limited by the output of the target muscles we are trying to train, and not by either an unstable object or surface, or limited by the skill of doing a compound free weight lift.